Vasanthi, you can start.
Oh, thank you for the warning. Yeah. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇರಿರುವಂಥ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. I know we are being joined by cinema lovers from across the world. So geography is no barrier. Thankfully, that's what the online world promises. Nan hesru Vasanthi Hari Prakash, and I am to be your Sutradharani for this evening. I actually come from radio and television and journalism world, but it's such a welcome change to be amidst the Filmmakers United Club and this Samvada with mainly the actor and director of a film that was so acclaimed and that you and I can get to understand better. Imagine having the pleasure and privilege of those who are a part of the cinema itself. I'm talking about Kanchivaram, a film that went on to bag many awards, both for its maker as well as the actor there. So without further ado, nam jote all the guests, and of course for the benefit of everybody who is joining in beyond, let's say, the Bangalore film world, this conversation in Samvada is going to be much in English, I would imagine. Mr. Priyadarshan himself is here with us, and so is Prakash Rai. We have Smita Prakash from the world of the weaves that the whole film hinges on. So while I welcome each one of our speakers, I would also encourage those who are listening in to keep your thoughts going, to keep those messages coming. So lottery, Nano, suppose if I were to really draw this and say that in today's conversation, who do we speak to first? I would probably go to this guy who is a powerhouse in himself. We've seen him in Kannada cinema first. And then when he went on to Tamil and made his debut with K. Bhashandar movie, no less. And then, of course, went on to create his own chap, matlab Hindi filmon mein, aur thodi bahut, even in Telugu cinema. Such a polyglot and the very versatile Prakash Rai, aka Prakash Raj. Yours is the first term.
Well, thank you for inviting us on this and to have bring into this table a film which is very close to my heart, and it was a great experience working on this film with Priyan, and to have lived through that for almost a decade now with the film, a decade and more, and it's something wonderful to be again revisiting the sets, revisiting the thought process and what it means today for us. And I would rather open it up and listen to the panelists and to what this whole thing will be guided into, what sort of discussion it will go into. And yeah, thank you, Priyan, for this wonderful moment. And this is such a film where every day it adds a moment to me in my life. It just keeps adding moments and moments, and it's so meaningful and purposeful. And thank you for the journey.
Prakash, if I may actually ask you to let's say set the mood for us, that when you were, I'm going to really draw you back into the time when you were asked by Priyadarshan sir to come in and
Well, that's crazy.
I mean, yeah. So give us a sense of what you actually
Priyan called me home. No, Priyan called me home and he said, I have to narrate you a script, and which has been with him for 12 years. I went and heard his narration and I had nothing to say. I just walked away. And I was so disturbed. And Priyan actually thought this is another actor who's just going to turn down my film. But my thing was I was trembling within, and I had to go out for a coffee. And within 30 minutes, I called him, how could you be pregnant with this film for so many years? And I think we should make it. It had disturbed me so much, and it was so much of pain, and such an important film it was. So when he finished the narration, I had nothing to say. It was trembling within, and I just left. And Priyan later told me, I thought you were one more actor who said probably not this at this time. But it had touched me, it had moved me so much. And then I think I was behind Priyan to make this film. And and that's the first thing what happened when I heard the story.
But were you in the thick of commercial cinema at that moment? Were you working on a Hindi film or a Tamil film?
See, that
What
is
were
your
you?
perception. Whatever films I am working, that is your perception. They think I am in the thick of a commercial cinema. No, I'm always me. And there's always an opening. There's always an actor in me or a person in me waiting, because that being my profession. So when such films come, I push everything away, and I know what is important to me and what gives me more meaning in life. And I am so blessed with those gifts that I get to do such films, and some filmmakers like Priyan believe in that I could deliver these films. So for me, I'm not in thick of anything, and when I'm not doing anything very meaningful, I'm all around. But something just comes up, and I just leave all of them and come back to live.
Which means it's the point for me to take that question to the director himself, Mr. Priyadarshan. So let me ask you, Priyansa, that as you know, Prakash was telling us that it was so, it sort of blew him away that he actually almost was in silence after he heard you, and you thought, you know, he was another actor, let's say, rejecting or at least walking away. So who were the people who you had approached until that point of time with this script?
If you ask me frankly, I have approached only Mohanlal. He had a problem because I was very clear that I have to make this film because completely from my heart. I don't want to make it from my mind. And I also decided I don't care whether this film is going to run or make money or anything. Something I only want. Like, see, there's something very interesting about me and Prakash is that both of us are actually commercial filmmakers. We are not never made any movies which is actually true to life or cost-based film or realistic movies. And of course, Prakash has worked with Karan and such people, and he's so experienced in the stage also. So I had only two choices: either any of the actors of Iruvar, otherwise I don't want to do this film. This was very clear because I was very sure, and I had another problem that I need somebody who actually believes that I want to do this film. So as Prakash, I mean, if Prakash has left it, I was actually planning to make this film in Hindi with Paresh Rawal because then it's a compromise because Paresh Rawal cannot do justice to the language. Prakash can do justice to the language because I'm trying to make something realistic where I don't want to do. I can't make this film in Malayalam because Malayalam it looked like a fake. So he left without. I was a little disappointed. Then I thought, okay, I just tried it. Called me and said that Brain, actually, I didn't want to cry in front of you. I still remember. So it hit me so bad. You tell me when I'm doing it. And people always used to say, come on, this is doing every language in the world. And he will not be available of you, nothing. But so I also took it a little easy. But it is Prakash actually who made me do it. He said, when I do it. He even told producer. So definitely full team. What I felt very good when he won the national award. I thought that, okay, his effort has been paid.
Are you guys hearing Priyan?
Uh, yes, I think we are having a little trouble. We seem to have lost him. Priyansa, we'll try and get back to his network. But meanwhile, Smita, you're here with us, and let's say the in a sense the non-film person, but such a significant aspect because your world is the world that uh, you know the film deals with the world of weavers, the world of saris. So let me have you, in fact, introduce in brief your work, and then how you saw the film. When you saw the film, not like someone of like us or like a cinema person, but your reaction in response to Kanchivaram.
Hi, I'm Smita Srinath, and I am an outsider in this whole thing. And, it's not just from the audience point of view that I'm speaking. I have been working with weavers of Kanchipuram from the past 12 years. I run a handloom store. And actually, when I saw the movie, I had earlier seen it in bits and pieces, but then, I saw it again and again. And I could actually, I don't know, I thought I was there, I was a part of the movie. That's what I could feel. And see, let me start saying that, sari is just an apparel, but Kanchivaram is an emotion. So, those feelings of those weavers, the struggle, everything, I have seen even today there are weavers who are struggling. See, like I said, Kanjivaram is an emotion in the sense every Kanjivaram sari has stories, has memories associated with it. Every woman who drapes a Kanjivaram will say, oh, this I bought during my, when my daughter was born, or, this was gifted to me by a special person. And so many memories, so many stories attached to it. And probably Kanjivaram, and it's one of the few where when you actually have a 50 or a 60-year-old sari, when people see that, they really gape in awe. Oh my God, this is a 50-year-old sari. So, and just imagine when we, the consumers, or when we drape it, we have so many emotions. And I could imagine the passion, the emotions of the weavers. It is the weaver's baby. So how would he have felt? It was his life ambition to see his daughter in a, draped in a kanjivaram, in a silk. So how would he have felt? That was
Yeah.
really...
Smita, in fact, I want to ask you here before we actually move to the other Prakash Belawadi. In fact, very early on in the film, there is this party when Venkatan actually gets home his bride. So there is this party who's sitting on that stone, and she says this about the weaver, that ada neikada mudiyum உடுத்துக்க முடியுமா? So that is the poignant reality that a weaver who creates such magic, as he also goes on to create for his Yajaman's daughter's wedding, a sari that nobody, he says that apadi paathirukave kuda, nobody should have even seen, could have imagined. And to think that he doesn't have that much silk to, first of all, on his father's corpse. How much of the, you did say that even now people are struggling, but do give us a sense of, let's say, where that weaver's life from 1948, because the movie does open 2 days after the Mahatma's assassination, as the shopkeeper says, to 2020. Has there really been a revolution, as the opening title says, that then came the revolution, because the political part is also quite an important one, along with his personal story. So where are we in 2020? How different have we moved for the weavers?
See, in fact, there is a lot of progress that has happened, but still it has scope for, so much of improvement. Like what we see in the movie is the thatched roof houses, or the chimneys, or the oil lamps, the bicycles. that has actually been replaced with RCC roofs and the TVS mopeds or motorbikes. And, there is electricity. But then again, there is so much scope for further, betterment of this. Because, see, I work with independent weavers, I work with master weavers, everyone. These independent weavers are actually still in that struggle. Those in those kugramams, those small hamlets, there is no power for hours on end. And in their small houses there is no light inside, and so the whole day he sits on the juggly outside and do nothing. There'll be probably power for 4 hours. That is when he can work.
Hmm.
So
So, Priyan, sir, who's back online, I'm going to segue into asking him from what you have told us about the of weavers even in 2020 as opposed to 1948 when the movie is set. So, Priyan, sir, if you can hear us, why Kanchivaram? What was it in your life that you have seen
Yeah.
weaver's life
No,
that really had this story in it?
see, I just, yeah, I just want to explain this, how it came to me, the idea. When I was, my father was a university librarian and a small playwright and all, and I used to meet a very great writer called Keshaling, that the irony that to see his daughter in a sari on her marriage date. The reason he said is in South Indian beliefs, basically, this is a sacred thread. So Kanchivaram is Kanchi, the deity of Kanchi has actually recited chanted a mantra and told in that mantra she actually gave them the technique of weaving. This is one belief. Actually, it is the technique of weaving is a mantra given to weavers by the deity of Kanchi. So that's why they say it's Kanchivaram. There's so many interesting myth. So what has happened is in Hindu belief, there are two, which is very common, we can see, especially in South. There are two movements that's the sacred, but it's very important. One is you put the potato over the dead body to take the soul in its purity to the heaven. One, and also the most important is when they get married, tying the sacred thread between them to make the marriage as sacred as possible. These are two important moments which is said, told in, mostly you can see it, it's a culture going from Malayalam to Tamil to Kannada to Telugu, everywhere it's there. So this belief, and but the first thing is a man who weaves millions of meters of uh, a cloth can never give a piece to his daughter. So this irony is the first thing which struck me. Then in fact, I went and interviewed so many weavers, as Vilaji said. I went and met them, which was formed in Kanchivaram. I think actually I had a clipping which I wanted to put at the end of the film that says that even today things, though where we have society and all those things, even today things have not changed with us. Even today it's difficult for us to send our daughter with a good Kanchivaram sari. This is something which they have told me. I did not put it at the end of the film. But the beauty is, it's also, actually, if you say that, I have two angles to the film. It's not only the sari. Another angle of the film was people who preach ideology will never practice it, whether it's communism, whether it's socialism, whether it is capitalism, whether it's democracy. The leaders who preaches. So it was actually, that's why I put an landline. It is actually a criticism or analysis on communism. So I had both these points. One is human and another is ideology. The clash between
Yeah.
ideology and human is my film.
Yeah. I Prakash Belvadi, Prakash, if you can, ನೀವು ಕೇಳಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ that this film can be looked at from so many different angles, and here you are as a film personality, as a better person, and also as somebody who's taught many students, let's say people in Bangalore, about film appreciation itself. So when you, let's say, watched Kanchivaram first, how did you see? See, it's one thing for Priyan sir to see this irony, and to another to translate it to the language of cinema. ಇದೇ ರೀತಿ we can also say that, okay, construction workers, for instance, who build such beautiful houses and mansions, never get to live in them. But with the sari maker, particularly in Kanchivaram context, the thing, the irony is even more stark, and we see that every time recurring in that cinema. But how did you see it, Prakash?
It has been many years since I saw it. Actually, it was a very fortunate occasion for me. I saw the film in Bangalore, and Prakash was here. Prakash Rai was here in the hall. It was at the International Film Festival here, and he was there, and he found out that I had come, and he said, "Come and sit with me in the front." So actually, I saw the film with him, you know, and it's been many years since that happened. What actually stays with me vividly is that there was a texture to the cinematography. I clearly remember that there was a kind of grading and colors in it, and the way it was framed and composed. Those images stay with me really vividly. The other thing that I remember about the film is that, you know, Prakash is a very fine actor, but I think it'll be hard to beat what he did with that film. I think it was one of the finest, roles that he has performed in. And you to me, what you've asked are two different questions. One is about the film, the narrative side itself. The other is the political side. For now, I will only try and talk about the film. If you ask a question again, if you're in the mood, I'll talk about the political thing. Okay, the film is, see, I'll tell you why it is it's a very unusual film, even for Priyan sir. Like he said, it's a very, how it's always like, it's fascinating what goes through a director's mind, a filmmaker's mind. You can never expect and be sure and slot a person as this. If you see Kanchivaram, you realize that it's such a stark and such a poignant film, and see, I will tell you the real problem in the film for me. I say it as a positive word, that when you make a story, you make a central conflict or a problem. In this film, it is fascinating, and it is interesting how Prakash negotiated that as an actor, and how the director actually negotiated with the problem. The problem is of faith itself. See, what happens is, there is a problem of poverty in the film that runs through the film. There is no money. And it's not just the system that is exploitative for the character, for the weaver. His brother, his sister don't play faithfully by him. The great conflict in the film is that there is an exploitative system there that actually doesn't give the weavers a share of the industrial profit that business and that culture produces. But what happens here is that, although he gets inspired by a writer who comes there, and he performs a communist act for a while, the real problem is that he subscribes to this faith and cultural idea that Priyan sir was talking about earlier, that he subscribes to that faith. He does not see that faith itself is used to perpetuate this exploitative system. So in fact, if he said that, this entire thing of, see, Napoleon once said famously, the only reason why the poor don't rise up and kill the rich who are in such a minority is because of religion, he said. That is the irony of the film for me, because this man subscribes to that thing of dressing, his dream of dressing that the wife in a Kanchivaram sari, or later his daughter in a Kanchivaram sari. That is his dream, because he subscribes to that faith and that custom and that culture and the value it produces. He does not see that it's exploitative and it uses him to perpetuate it. The second problem is that he's a gray character. While he becomes a leader of the communist awakening there, when it comes to the idea that his daughter has to get married, he breaks the strike. And they treat him as a traitor. He does it for what is ostensibly a selfish reason, but actually it is because he's a victim of this cultural system. That it is because of that he does it. His faith comes into conflict with his politics in a way. And it was important that Prakash played it innocently. That he is not clever enough to understand the conflict himself. He does not understand it's a double whammy, that he's a victim twice. He's a victim by the political economic system in one way. He's also a victim of the social cultural system in another way. And he does not realize that, that conflict in himself. And he plays it innocently. And that's why it's important that he loses his mind at the end. I think it's structurally correct, because he doesn't understand what happens to him. And I think it is very beautiful because of that understated, innocent tone and register that he keeps right through the film. The politics is a separate thing. I've spoken enough, I think. So if we come back to it, I'll talk about it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, triggers of a few more questions in my mind, but it's now time to ask Priyan sir and make the most of his presence to tell all of us just what it took to recreate. I understand, or rather I read this trivia somewhere, Priyan sir, that you actually shot it in Mysore. Is that true? Mysore is where you created. Melkote, to be precise. So
Yeah,
tell us a little bit more about the making of this and this incredible art direction, of course, by Sabu Siru.
Yeah, see, the best thing is, uh, actually, I was very, very, very thrilled when I in Toronto, and they write very blunt reviews about movies. So the review says that what is appreciated the film for its production value. Actually, the film was uh, made in shoestring because that's what we could afford. And thanks to Sabu Cyril, thanks to Prakash, thanks to Thiru, I think almost everybody worked. So it's not that, but again, to create a period which is very challenging. So I decided that I'll take a keyhole approach to the period.
Okay.
It's an absolute keyhole approach, because I can't go on a film, Canon, Rapani, film. I can't, because we don't have the budget for that. So we took a keyhole. I think the best thing I did is how well my production designers are. I tell you one thing. I'm a very, very big fan of Satyajit Ray. And you can definitely see that there's a lot of influence of Ray in the making of Kanchivaram, which I have to accept, because the placing of artists, the placing of frames, distending them, and using a lot of visual language instead of using verbal language, which I think I myself, in fact, when I saw the film, I felt that, okay, first time I thought, okay, you're not a bad, this is what, The first time I felt so. Otherwise, I was making a lot of trash for the commercial films, and somehow but this one moment, I was so confident I got it. Shamaniga put a note to me saying that it's like watching, reading a Victor Hugo's reading. So I thought, and many people actually thought, had a doubt whether it's the same Priyadarshana who has made this film. As you said, it was a
Yeah,
cultural shock
he is
for many
well.
people. And
Yes.
definitely, I have to say that it's not my film, it's our film. And the way I saw the first thing about trade, I mean, the best part of making films like this is I have understood that, yeah,
I don't know if we have lost him once more. But Prakash, to actually, you're the person in the best position to take forward what he has told us this far, which is a translating. I mean, we heard him say that the visual language more than the verbal language. So this whole recreating. So here you were trying to play a part, and imagine the kind of challenge that we saw you take on through the film. There's almost 3 to 4 phases. There is and then there is a back and forth movement. There you are as a person who is looking back and who is handcuffed in the bus, and then the next moment we get to see you as this young person getting married, and then of course making the promise to your little daughter, whispering into her ears, "Ki tamare unuk in the cellar." So um, one is the preparation of what people who are watching us from all over the country, possibly even outside, or who's aspiring to be an actor, young people there, that what does it take to really be this weaver? Are you on mute? Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. I think Prakash actually put it right onto it. That's how I approach the film. I just learned everything and I just unlearned everything. So it was like on the sets shooting, because I think on all my career, I worked with many filmmakers. I think Priyan had not a scene-wise screenplay. He had a shot-wise screenplay of this film.
Oh wow. Okay.
At the end of the film, if I say, I think he edited only 3% of what he had shot, because he shot only what he wanted. And I had a filmmaker like that with his lensing, and a cinematographer who was there, and an art director who was there. For me, was to know the whole thing of the film and just to unlearn the whole thing. So for me, I did not know I was a victim in the film, nor did I know become more intelligent than the film. I did not know what was hitting me. So it was just a journey. But then writing the film was a very major problem for us, because Priyan had designed it in that way. But the sound, the dialogue, like for example, when I go back, when I break the strike, we did not have the scene. So we were just sitting in the night, 2 nights before, and I heard a shairi in Tamil shairi by K. Balachandran,
Oh,
where
I
in a
see.
shairi stage where they say something and they negate it. They say something and negate it. And I said, the whole turmoil of me to say it, I will actually say what they want to hear, but I want to take a decision of what I want to do. So this is how it was structured. So it just happened there. It was not, dialogues were not written. It was just there because visually he had the film and he knew the pace of the film. He knew what is the music of the film. He knew the lengths of the shots. It is like, I had a great experience working on Bhag Milka Bhag, and when me and this guy was rehearsing, and the director said, he said, "What are you watching?" He said, "I'm seeing the film happening." And that's what Priyan did with us.
I
He had
see.
narrated it to us, and he waited for Tiru to keep it, or the art director to do it, or me to perform it. And I said, ask him. He says, "No, I'm just seeing it. I want to see the film happening."
Hmm.
I know it's a very interesting thing. It's very interesting for an actor not to think of his ideology, his thought process, or trying to push things, but to be the role, to learn and unlearn. you just become empty, the whole thing. You just shepherd the way his life is. Like he has a belief and he doesn't know he is a victim. He doesn't know what it hits him. And he just goes off. And I approached the film that way. Because for me, it was a very, it was actually to actually first to accept it and to get into what they were saying. And I could see what was happening. And I had to just, in fact, in the climax, I'll tell you, when the whole sari thing is happening, the digesting, I had to come out of it so much. I was cooking biryani on the sets. And
Oh,
I
I
was
see.
telling Priyan, just wait, I'm cooking food here. Because I couldn't take it. I did not want to know. I did not want to know the result. I did not know to what. I did not want it to be connected at all. I just wanted it to happen. So all those things I did. I started cooking on the sets. I used to talk to the villagers, bring in, just sit there. And in fact, in the climax, towards the climax, when I had to shave the head, Priyan got a wig and we tried, and it was not real for me. I said, let me shave. And after the film, I had other films. I said, I don't care now. I want to live in the moment. I can't be real if I don't shave that head. So it was too much of surrendering, but the surrendering was very much necessary for that film. And for me, it is a very personal journey for me too,
Mm.
of me being so much empowered. I have all the things to fall on to what my good things are. I know what reactions are in commercial cinema. I know I play for the gallery. I make them see the way I want them to look at me. But that was not it. And the two best compliments I got was in the middle of the night. Priyan, while editing, called me and he said, "Bastard, are you telling me where to edit the film?" You know, that was it. And that was it. And I want to share and thank Priyan for that. And I want to share with you all is that there's one man who saw me. That was, I was in Mumbai and Mr. Steven Spielberg had come there for a gathering, and we were all invited. Me, Kamal Hassan, were invited there. And one person, when I'd done Singham, just then, and from Reliance, they introduced me to Steven Spielberg and said he's a great actor and he's a great comedian villain. And he said, "No, I see a lot of pain in his eyes." And I just looked at
Oh,
him and he said, "Were you a weaver in some film?" And I said,
whoa.
"Yes, I was a weaver, film called Kanchivaram to Toronto." I said, "Yeah, the five best films come to me and I've seen that film. You did a great job." And that was something that moment told me that how humble and the way he sees without any of these things, and how Priyan made me do it, and that
Yeah.
innocence worked, because he did not see me, he doesn't know me, but he saw the eye, he saw the emotion where the film told him that. And I think those two moments, I can't forget it. But this whole film, I can talk about as an outsider about the film a lot, about the politics of it or the person's journey onto it. As an actor, I just unlearned a lot. I had to unlearn a lot before getting into a shot. For me, being a very aggressive and always trying to say something, it was a very different thing. And Trian introduced me to something very beautiful as an actor to me, as a person to me, to how to surrender to a script and only to the role, not worry about what they are doing, but what are you supposed to be? You be the, just be that, and it was a great journey for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that from a viewer point of view of what it must have meant to unlearn. For me, one of the scenes that I also took away is when you are now this evolved person. You know the politics of a communist. You have he has made you perform plays, and then you give the petition to that Yajaman. And when the first time he's kind of crumpled the paper sheet and thrown it at your face, and the second time when he's coming, from that mandapam and you do that, I'm so trained also as this, let's say, masala movie watcher, that I was very keen to see what your expressions were at that point of time, or at least some part of me was thinking that there'll be some anger working on it. I said, how dare he throw this at me? And now I'll show you, because now you're not that innocent Venkatam Weaver anymore, but you have come, and yet you just very gently withdraw, and then you do what you do. I mean, of course, you and your the friend decide to have this strike. But coming back to you, Priyansa, now you have gone on record in one of the interviews to say about how Hindi film audiences, um, it's you are in a way compelled to make entertainment a factor there, and so you cannot. Is that you cannot really experiment so much with an audience such as that, and therefore the South gives you a larger canvas. Let's say the Malayalam, Tamil, and Kannada, or what have you. So how frustrating it is for you as a prolific filmmaker, otherwise, who has cracked the commercial part, like we'd say Hera Fairy, much loved cinema, but then in your heart you're having this baby Kanchivaram. So tell us first about the frustration, and also how you deal with that. That you want to make a certain film, but the audience is not ready for it, international thing.
Frankly speaking, the most enjoyable film always wanted to that, to make a film like this. Every time, as Prakash said, 12 years I've been keeping this. Every time I make a hit, I used to tell the producers, I would like to make a film. They'll say, okay, let's make one more commercial film. After that, we'll spend more money for it. They never did it. Finally, I was forced to make a film in partnership with somebody. That's only one film I've got produced. So actually, the kind of joy I enjoyed making Kanchivaram, I've never enjoyed with Hera Fairy or Bhool Bhulaiya or Kalapani or anything. I have to say that, because you're so relaxed as a filmmaker and you're actually doing what you wanted to. Because there's a lot of things I've done. When people notice it, you can see the house in Kanchivaram. As the character of Prakash grows and changes, you can see the transformation of the house from when he.
Yes, Prakash Belawadi. I'm going to use this time of a tech glitch that Priyan sir is facing for you to say that what you wanted to say the first time round, and waited for your time.
The political question is fairly straightforward, when you see it in Marxist terms, that you use labor for production and the proceeds of production are unequally shared. I mean, this is a very fairly simple Marxist premise. The problem of that is you can see it then as a political film. But the thing is, we'll need to be sensitive about everything that happens in that context then. Let me put it this way. Even if you're not a communist, even if you're a Marxist, you can see the exploitation. You don't need a filter of ideology to see what is wrong. I mean, it is patently wrong. I mean, that you sell it for 800 rupees and you give this guy 8 rupees as salary is just wrong. I mean, why do you need any ideology for it? Can't you see that it's wrong? Okay. Now, what happens in this film is that if you see it only from communist terms, you said, the film is set in 1948. Actually, it's only the resolution of the film that is set in 1948. The problem of the film, however, is set one generation earlier. Because what happens to him has happened a long time ago. He's in prison. And it's actually the imperial government that has put him in prison. Because the imperial government encouraged zamindari, it allowed private collection of taxes, it allowed exploitation, it forced people to grow indigo, for instance. It did all this. The people were starving in Bengal, but the imperial government forced them to grow indigo because, it gave them business. The imperial government actually partnered with feudatories everywhere. And that is the context of the exploitation. The question is, has it changed? Look at the migrant workers of what happened during COVID. The thing is, you're recognizing that these people are workers indeed only when you see them traveling back in horrifying conditions. You never have put them on record. They're not on the payrolls. They're not in your labor department statistics. When you say employment or unemployment figures in India, you don't consider this huge multitude. So that exploitation, whether you see it in Marxist terms or simple humanist terms, is happening even today. If the analysis in media about migrant workers, for instance, never took into account that these people you never saw before. They had no health coverage. There were no ESI, there's no PF, there's no gratuity, there's no leave, there's no toilets for women, there's no toilets for children, there's nothing, no schools. You don't recognize them, they don't even live here. They're not even acknowledged in your citizen registry here. That's how it is. That exploitation is actually the minor part of the film, I would say, because you see it only through the eyes of Vengadan. What happens to him? He discovers Marxism. Okay?
Yeah.
So a writer comes, he discovers it, and then he abandons it because he has a private issue. Okay, which actually is what Marx is addressing, that this struggle has to be between classes. While he's in a lower economic class, he actually subscribes to the same values as the higher social class. That is the problem of politics in that film. And I feel the film, that is why, quite correctly, never looks to resolve the political side at all. I mean, there is one dramatic scene of that street play. Okay, it's completely startling. It is, I mean, it brings everything. It brings that urgent commercial touch that Priyadarshan can give. It gives that great color and moment that, say, Sabu serial can create. It gives that great compositional value that, say, Thiru can make with as a DOP. All that, and very effective music. All that happens there. But the thing is, that is really not central to the thematic of the film. What is thematic center of the film is what happens to Vengadan, who carries an innocent dream, okay, without realizing how he is a party to this system. That is the thematic of the film.
Yeah, so Smita, one of the, while Prakash has presented the political lens of the film, something very basic and simple. And I think you and I, simply because we get to wear those saris, and that's why I, in fact, wore one. I thought this is my tribute to both Prakash and Priyan sir as a moderator, to wear actually the Kanchivaram, because it was just incredibly moving. I mean, as it is, we are sari fans, but asking you this desire that you see in Venkatam's wife's eyes, when she's buttoning her blouse, and she's saying, she's asking her husband something not for gold or diamond, or not even the sari itself. Imagine the bar that is set for this weaver's life, and frankly, that's a scene which is so moving for me, that she is saying, can I get to see the sari that you have woven? And you see, and then I noticed that she's actually wearing something that's so coarse. I think, I don't know what, it's maybe cotton, that white color, creamish, that she's wearing. And she's just saying, and that even to put that question out, you see that there is this hesitation, that I'm not getting told, appadi enada ketutena kind of moment. So, and likewise with the daughter, when there is this thing which is really asking her father, can I just get to see it? Because Atte wants to come and be a part of the purchase. So, Neevu, when you are someone who deals with that world and universe of weavers and weaves and saris day in and day out, how do you see this fact that all this life that come to terms that they will never get to wear it? Because imagine when the father makes a promise, rather than being happy that her husband is so ambitious, she's angry, she's upset, saying, how can you do this? And what's your take? How did you see it?
See, it was really sad. Like I said, I could actually, I felt I was a part of that, because I have seen those people struggle. So it is just one simple aspiration to see the, how the sari which her husband has woven, and For that, if she has to hesitate and, ask him for that, and see, this is 70 years ago, probably, the period of that movie. And even today, when I see that, these women folk, they wear this polyester saris, a cheap 200 rupee, 300 rupee sari. That's really sad. Like, someone said, you can't, these construction workers build the houses and they cannot live. I don't know. It's really heart wrenching to see that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah. So, when you're saying about the women to this day who don't get to wear the saris, and so it's probably a reality that's not changing in a hurry. So let me, if at all, Priyan sir, he's online. I'm told he's in fact joining from Manali, where he is shooting his latest film. So naturally, that network isn't too great. But we have someone who played the weaver himself, Prakash. It's now coming back. When this whole relation, this thing that you are at some point of time, you have lost that wife who you wanted to see in that sari, and then working towards fulfilling your own promise, and then you also see your daughter who is quietly and silently in love. Give us a sense of also the ecosystem around you. I mean, one is your personal preparation for the role which you told us about, but then it takes a whole, let's say, village, quite literally, to make a cinema such as this. I would imagine that it's in a way life altering for you, because it's a landmark film in your career, as one has seen even the wide canvas under which you worked. But what does it take for an actor who's playing this part uh, to be in sync? Like, what's the kind of teamwork that goes into a film like Kanchivaram? When I say teamwork, I'm not even meaning the art direction and all that, but I mean
No.
co-actors who
It
you have to carry.
basically goes into what the director and how is he weaving the film as a sari. Like when a wife, after he brings his Mallipu and he has just made love and she wants to know where the sari is. And it is not that he doesn't want to buy her a sari, but he says, we will go see it on her. He has imagined somebody else because he knows to whom he is weaving the sari, the colors he puts in. See, look at that beautiful thing about that person. He has not worn the sari for his wife. He has brought in a peacock into it. He has brought in his culture into it, his stories into it, the stories he has heard, his religion, his beliefs into it. So he is always the one who weaves a sari and wants to see it on somebody else. It is ordered to him. It is told to him for whom it is being woven. And he wants to take his wife there.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know, he doesn't recognize that his wife actually wants to see it, wants to wear it. He doesn't understand that. And when it comes to his daughter, it is for him because the society has told him, he has promised. I think that is what he can give. It is not her aspirations. It is not that he is concerned about her. So he is caught in all those things. He doesn't know what is happening with him. He doesn't know how he has been chiseled. His perceptions has been chiseled, and how he is also contributing to the whole system which is taking him and his life and people like them. He is not a revolutionary. He doesn't understand. Even see, again, when Prakash was talking about political, this thing about us, I don't look at it as only as communism. It is with all isms. Does everybody know about it? For him, communism was just that he'll get little more payment. His salary would be better. It is not the ideology. See, people may sell them something, but what do they buy? What do they understand? Whether it is democracy, whether it is socialism, the larger people who vote, whom we tell what isms are and what ideologies are, for them, they see personally where does it affect them, where does it empower them. Empowerment is not in the thought process. So he is that sort of a guy, nor does he recognize his wife's want to have a sari like that. It is not that at all,
Right.
Nor is it See, when his father dies, he ties it with a silver thread.
Thread.
This is all I can do.
Hmm.
But with daughter, there is something else. And he has promised there's somebody who's getting married. That marriage has to happen. He has to think about how much to get ready for the food for everybody, you know. And then he steals. He doesn't. He steals with it, and he comes. He doesn't know anything, and I think that. And when Priyan writes those things, it is not just as an actor to understand what I am supposed to play.
Hmm.
I'm supposed to understand what are the people, what are the other chemistries which work around it. Whether it could be the friend who becomes his daughter's father-in-law, Sambandhi,
Yeah.
the joy where they both share on a cycle about the marriage. You
Hmm.
know, you should have told me, you should have
That's
told
a
me. He is not
fantastic
there.
scene. Yeah.
It is not there later, but he doesn't know what is coming. He doesn't know what is coming towards him. And that fellow is because just because he has got a son who has gone to an army, he becomes bigger than him.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he becomes smaller because he has got a daughter. You see,
Though at
and
that
he
point,
doesn't know what is happening.
Hmm.
But what I see is I see those constructions, the way Priyan viewed it. That's why I said it was a short wise screenplay of him. Every line, every moment was so pregnant. He was ready for it. See, Priyan in commercial cinema, he uses lot of things to pad up. But
Yeah.
here he was just liberated because he knew a moment would do it. Like you're
Yeah. Yeah.
sitting with him, and there are around 20 junior artists around when the death has happened and wife's death has happened. Then suddenly he says, the density of the population was not that much then. So we don't need, that is when he frames it, it is that sensitive.
Hmm.
It is that
So,
sensitive, it is. So that all gets on to you. Priyan with the script and what he wants to say, and with so much of heart he did the film, no? It gets on to you.
yeah.
It just gets on to you, and you're affected by that, and you can only do that.
So let me ask you this to draw from where Kanchivaram was and let's say to where South Indian cinema is now. Do you see filmmakers more liberated? You use that word for Priyansa now in a context of recreating this period film, but with, let's say, greater technology and I don't know, possibly, do you see that we have actually gone to a place where we have now more promise, or is something still holding filmmaking? What is holding South Indian cinema
See,
back, Prakash?
it is not cinema you see. The world cinema is held back like that. Cinema
Hmm.
itself, cinema is a language. Cinema, there is no fair play. See, like COVID has exposed a lot of things, right? It has actually exposed the mafias which controlled everything. The river. So distribution sector said, they just put a dam and said water is ours. Or the producers came and said, you just make projects. So it was never around content. So until and
Hmm.
unless you release this with the audience understanding, the audience coming out together, and you release this space of it should be around content. Art should be around content. Then you'll only say, is it evolved now? No. Every time there are people who evolve. They may not make as great film as Kanchivaram, but there is an effort which goes. We don't let it grow at all. There are so many things we
Yeah.
bring in. We are also like Vengadam, where we are victims. And we are trying to ask for
Hmm.
little discounts. And this doesn't work like that. There is a surge of talent. There is a new filmmakers who are coming down. But are we letting them speak? Are we letting them
So,
to make excellence?
therefore, if you are saying that the COVID has in fact exposed so many
It
mafias
has not
within the film
attacked at all.
industry,
It has
some of
only
you.
exposed. It has exposed a lot
Hmm.
of things,
No,
not
no,
only the
but
industry.
going from here, right? No, I'm saying that therefore it is something what's the way ahead therefore, and what are you working on at this moment as an actor, as a person in the industry? What are you working on, and how do you see this going forward? Because you've had sort of a grinding halt in many ways for us, the audience, for you, the film people. So, Neevu
Can I be honest?
Eager, what are you working on?
Can I be very honest?
Please. You can
I
imagine
have
that's what
realized,
we're looking for.
I have realized life is more important than cinema.
I see.
So you may just see me drifting away,
So
getting into the
yeah. So
earth, getting into, I don't know. And that's
no, no,
I'm
it's
being very
Prakash,
serious.
that's individual.
I'm being very serious. I'm making sense. I know what I'm going through. I think I had this gap to realize, let's stop running. You know, there's something else. Life is more beautiful. And if I get to get a film, get a cinema, if I need to approach cinema now, if I approach acting now, it will be totally different from what it was before. There's so much which has gone in now, and where something else has come out.
Hmm. So while I totally understand, and I'm sure your family must be a lot happier that this time to stop running means to say that you get time to explore what you actually genuinely want to do. But in terms of let's say people who have seen you in various, let's say, a Nagamandala or your acts as bringing a very very fresh this thing to villainy in Hindi cinema or even Telugu, etc., are going to be like, so is this does this mean that you don't get to see more of the kind of work that you've been doing? However, I'm told by the organizers that it's about 5 more minutes that we have for ourselves. I'm going to also quickly ask whether there's any chance of getting Priyan sir back with his network. If you can just indicate that to me, or is he already online?
Priyan was
Any?
actually telling, I'm missing this discussion so much. Can we do after 20th one more? Because I
Oh, I
think
see.
we have to lot of
Can you hear
Priyan
me
has lot
now?
of
Can you hear me
Priyan
now?
really, yeah.
Yeah, great. We can hear you, Priyan sir. So I'm saying that with the kind of prolific work that you have done,
Yeah.
from starting let's say Malayalam to then Hindi, the different things that you gave from a
Yeah.
Virasat to Mera Feri and all that. You also got
Indeed.
the Padma Shri meanwhile, and it just feels so good that your efforts have been recognized. So I was in fact asking Prakash the same thing, saying that what's holding filmmakers back now? You were telling us, giving us a glimpse of a little bit of that when you came online last time, saying in Hindi cinema, it's a filmmaker's dream
Yeah.
at one end and what the audience wants. So what's happening at the moment, and what's your advice to those who want to enter the world of cinema after this tough phase of COVID that we've seen?
Basically, it was a long journey for me now, 40 years and 94 films in 4 languages. And basically, I'm not a director. What I would like to see on screen is what I'm making. So I loved every kind of cinema. I loved artistic films, realistic movies. I loved commercial films. I even loved those days. I used to enjoy Jyoti Lakshmi films. Everything I enjoyed, whatever runs on the screen, that's why I could make every kind of film. But basically, if you ask me, slowly, I also started understanding there is a pleasure of filmmaking where you try to do something new which you have not been doing before. And every time I'm very clear about for what kind of audience I'm making a film. So when I make audience is this. When I'm making Bulbulaya or Hera Fairy, I know this is my target audience. So I'm not, I am, so because I am a person who could enjoy every kind of film, I believe that I could make every kind of film. Now, 94 films, 6 more films is a century, and rest is left to God. And
Yeah, but Priyanka, if you can hear us, uh, what is a tip that you really give for being able to do so much? I mean, 6 films short of a century in 40 years. I mean, there are those filmmakers who probably come out once in a while and say give a film or try. It takes them that much time to create their vision of cinema. And here you are, like that, you are, this thing, and then there's so many super hits and I mean, not so many hits. So all these things. So is there something in your working way, if you can hear us, that people can learn from? Like these days, in the millennials look for a lot of hacks. YouTube is full of hacks for this, hacks for that. So what is your hack for being able to produce so many or make so many films?
Yeah,
I'm not sure
only
what
one
that.
thing I want to tell the youngster. I think I last part was not clear. I
Yeah.
have, I still have a dream film in my pocket. This is, I hope I will be able to do something as good as Kanchivaram again, which is again I've been lulling this film in my heart for quite some time. Otherwise, basically, I said, I believe if you ever want to make God laugh, tell your plans to Him. So I am not planning to make God laugh. Let things happen the way it happened. And to the youngsters, if you tell me what is advice, I just say that make sure for why you are making a film, that one clarity they should have. Whatever they are making, first making this film, that clarity you.
Yeah, that clarity is important in a sense of vision, purpose. Prakash Belwadi, you have been a director yourself, a theatre person, and then acted for Hindi cinema, let's say, in very varied roles. What's it that you have seen, or even if you can give an example or two of, let's say, if you were to take something like Talwar, where you saw Meghna Gulzar, what's the world that a director inhabits? Like in the case of Priyan sir, probably parallelly there is a Kanchivaram, there's a Hera Feri, and a Hangama somewhere. But is that something that you find fascinating? Like how are they able to execute? It's almost like a project, how the IT world calls it, right? So, what have you observed in different directors in your journey in the cinema industry?
See, I think the director sees the film first and tries to shoot the film that he or she has seen. Okay, and there are gaps, there are losses in translation, or there are morphs, there are ideas, things change. The film you saw first is not the film you'll actually shoot eventually. Okay, because it's ensemble work. So many people come in, an actor interprets it in a different way. A DOP can give you a vision of something that was not in your imagination. So basically, a director sees a film, and a director tries to execute the film that he or she has seen before. So the thing is whether you can what how successful the director is in communicating that vision of that film that he has actually in his head that he has seen, how successfully he can communicate that idea to his team, to his cast and crew. It becomes a very crucial thing. See, I want to come back to Kanjivaram because it's a film that makes you want to speak. See, I'll tell you, we ask this question in when you're doing training for acting. We say that if an actor imagines something in his head, does that communicate? Now, I've never discussed this film with Prakash. In all these years, I've never talked about this film with him. And what he's saying about how we approach the role is I imagine exactly that is the way he approached the role. That's what I thought. The idea of innocence, that he's not even aware of the part he's playing, that character in that system. Okay, that's what I thought. And he's saying exactly that. Now, what is the mystique here? I'll tell you. While I was telling you about losses in translation, when a director communicates to his actor or to his DOP or to his production designer what the vision of the film, and it doesn't come correctly sometimes, or sometimes it does, sometimes it adds, sometimes it changes. Now, what happens to when from the actor to the audience? How does the audience get what this character is thinking? It comes from kind of some kind of micro gestures of acting. It's not large acting. It is small acting that communicates an imagination of how the actor is imagined that character, communicates not exactly in words and certainly not in gestures even. It communicates somehow. It is something mystifying to me, but it is true. See, what he thought comes to you when you watch the film. It may not come in dialogue, it came somehow. Actually, I want to tell young actors to do this, to believe what they're doing. If they believe what they're doing, they should believe that the audience will get it. You don't need to be gross. And that is the great discovery of it for me. This talk has been rewarding for that reason for me, particularly because, see, he thought something and it shows, and it doesn't, there is no dialogue you can quote of his self-awareness in that movie. Do you remember a single moment when he's self-aware? He's always bewildered. If you want a sthai bhava of that character, he's always bewildered. He's overwhelmed by the system. He doesn't, even the question he asks are questions like he said, he sees a practical point. He says, I need better salaries. This is what he sees. He doesn't see the big idea. He doesn't see it because he's too overwhelmed, by reality, and he cannot question it. Actually, because you brought up Nagamandala, when Nagamandala was done after the first set of shows, I asked Girish, does she know? I said, does she know it is not her husband? Does she know? And Girish said, I don't want to answer that question, but I want to tell you this. He said, people cannot handle truth beyond a point. They need they need an explanation that satisfies the morality of the time. See, that's what it is. Actually, he's because he subscribes to the social norm of the time and of the setting. He does not bring up the question because that question brings up his long held beliefs. What will he do with it then? So he doesn't even touch it. I think that character communicates that to you, and not because he doesn't have the dialogue in the very self-aware. You don't have the dialogue, but you realize what he's going through, and that I think is fascinating, magical.
Yeah. No, in Nagamandala, of course, that truth which can be comforting for her, or in Kanchivaram, that scene for me, where he does a total U-turn when he suddenly realizes the daughter's wedding is, coming up in a few days because the boy is going to go back into the army. And this friend is like, okay, revolution, Puranchi. And suddenly this man is like, well, நான் அதுவும் சொல்ல மாட்டேன். And it is like, this guy is like flabbergasted. He's saying that what's wrong with this man? And he's led us up to this point of almost, okay, revolution. And suddenly, what's this thing? But the character on Prakash's, or rather the expression on Prakash's face is not of guilt or remorse that, okay, he's going to go back, but it's very like, okay, this is my next step. And this is what it's going to take. So you're right in that, and I know we are now beginning to run more short of time. So I'm going to leave two, let's say, last comments, because I'm told that Priyan sir is offline again, and that's sad because there were, of course, a last set of questions for him. But Smita, what is it that after having listened to so many different dimensions than what you probably saw for yourself, how are you going to look at, let's say, the Weaver's story henceforth, or any cinema that's going to be made around such a theme? Because you're a practitioner, and here are people who translated that into celluloid.
Yeah. See, actually, people should understand the role these weavers play in our lives. So for that to happen, probably Priyan sir and Prakash Rai sir, this is for you. More and more such movies should be made, because this should be promoted. The people should know the struggle. People should know, since weaving is next only to farming in our country, and it is such a great art.
And of course, a livelihood provider.
Exactly. See, we see in the movie that boy Rangan moves away from this profession, and that's exactly what is happening even today. The weavers don't want their next generation, their sons, to pursue the same profession. We see a lot of them moving away. They are graduates, they're engineers, they're MBAs. So many people, the sons and daughters are moving away. Of course, I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't be educated. They should be educated, but then at the same time they should come back to this. So for that to happen, such movies must be made. And of course, there are some people who I have seen, are coming back even after, getting their MBA degrees or doing their engineering. They are coming back. But what I have seen is I don't see that passion in them like what their fathers or their grandfathers used to have. That passion in their eyes is what is lacking. That's probably because they're more of white collared, like the grandfather or the father would have actually done it hands on. He would have sat on the loom, and he knows how to throw the shuttle from left to right, right to left. This boy probably doesn't know that. So that should actually happen.
Yeah, very valid points, Smita. My experience, of course, as both a sari fan and as a concerned, let's say, citizen, has been that thankfully there's been many awareness. People have put for platforms like Facebook or Instagram to great use. There are any number of things of people who follow saris, or rather who wear saris and post pictures of the sari pact and so many other things, and that has led to the next level of revival of whether it's the Kunbi sari or the Gajendra Gad or things like that. And I think that's when a filmmaker like Priyan sir will find some satisfaction that, okay, you did choose something which could have been obscure, which could have just been like sitting in one corner of an art film archive of the country, but actually managed to get into the hearts of people like you and me, and of course into Mr. Steven Spielberg, who Prakash said watched it as one of the best offerings and saw, his eyes, those sad eyes that he spoke about. It's been very fulfilling for me as well to actually have this, to moderate this talk. I would like to thank Chaitanya, and I also have a few announcements, or rather requests to make of people who have been watching us, that please do subscribe to the channel and become members. It is the URL that you can note down: www.THEFUC, the Filmmakers Union, the FUC.in. So please make a note of this website and do make sure that you're tuned in, because there are some very, very interesting conversations. I heard about the one that they had with Mr. M.S. Satyu, an icon in his own right. I have seen with younger filmmakers. And so there is a lot of offerings that's coming your way if you will subscribe. I would also like to acknowledge the curators of the October events, that is Vasuki, Vivekananda, and Puneet. There is also, yes, I mean, many thanks. I would personally put in a thanks to Artakalari, because I was actually the Sutradhar at a dance graduation here in Artakalari. And that's when they had reached out, and Jayachandran Palari made sure that I have this space to continue, because at literally 8:29 I came from that program, and then 8:30 I was logging in here. So I would like to acknowledge the role of the space given. I would also like to thank everybody who's watching on behalf of F.U.C. I would like to thank all the audience for your complete, sustained interest in this initiative. These conversations are so important, and imagine that you and I, as viewers, are getting to have this privilege of having those very people who are involved with the cinema with us. Nam jote matadkondu. And so from wherever you joined today, Prakash, you have been, reflective for the past few moments, even from what I can see in this little window. So anything that you want to leave us with? You're mute. I think you're on mute. Or even if there's a particular kind of cinema that's on your wish list that some Indian filmmaker makes.
This is a question to Belwadi or me, both of us are Prakash.
All righty. I want to first ask Venkatam.
Okay. Well, first of all, don't see Kanchivaram as just a silk weaver's film. You know, this weaving is into a lot of things today, whether it is farming, whether it is the education system, whether it is the migrants who walked. So I think when a filmmaker makes, let us not just make it into a silk film or a sari film. You know, that is not that. It's the perception of a problem, of a solution, and it is so true in our society with the way we perceive everything around. And my only request is, I think we didn't hear Priyan a lot because he was the one who was pregnant. He was the one who was delivered the child, Kanchivaram. And I wish if Prakashi and all of us can, later, whenever he is free, we could have one more session, and I'm sure people would love it. And we could go to the next levels of discussions of these and more deeper things to it. And to say that Priyan or me or you or Prakash or all of us, and we are celebrating the gifts we have got as to people who have perceived, we have been chiseled with a lot of perceptions. And I think we need to continue to make films or do certain works which bring in such discussions wherein, because we or Prakashi or all of us are born because of such discussions of at different stages of our life. And I think let's keep celebrating such attempts. And thank you for bringing me on this.
Yeah. Thank you, Prakash. And now to the other Prakash. Meanwhile, I'm also seeing a message from Chaitanya Karihal who says that we would love to have Priyan sir back again about this film, because yes, there were so many things that you would have loved to know from him. That for another date. But ending this, Prakash Belwadi, if you would like to have the last word.
No. Actually, I'm so glad that that Chaitanya or whoever Chaitanya called me. So I think he thought of me. I'm really happy to be in this thing because it's a really important film, and I think it deserves a larger and deeper discussion. And I'll say that the technical problem that we faced, I will see that as an opportunity that we can do this again. And I would love to listen more from him on this film. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeed. And we are talking about a day and age when people can shoot on this grand scale or even on iPhone or on their phone sets, whichever. But the language of cinema is important, and each of you has contributed to that and left many nicely brewing thoughts. And that's what is a note to end this discussion on. And thank you, of course, for having me. And it's time for me, Vasanthi, to say namaskara on the behalf of everybody that you saw on this window and everybody you don't see on this window who've been quietly working away to make this happen. Thank you.